marble, cold, lifeless, soulless. I dream about her, a marble statue, a girl, her delicate hands, soft hair, warm brown eyes, all of it turned to stone. Every night, I wake up in my studio. Dawn glimmers outside the window, and the sun's rays glide smoothly across the wood floor. When did I fall asleep? I don't remember. I worked all night, I had to make it. Sculpting is all I have. Since my love died, I've been working day and night, carving beautiful images out of cold stone. This time I worked on a statue for a very rich gentleman. The statue was perfect, it was exactly like the customer. But it gave me neither pleasure nor banal satisfaction. Che, something was wrong. When I used to create in this room, she used to come in the afternoon and bring me hot buns and cheese. We'd spend a little time together. Then she'd go home to do some work, and I'd stay in the studio, happy, sunny, and continue working until late afternoon. Then I'd come home, we'd have dinner together, and afterwards, we'd sit by the fireplace and just talk. My life was full of light and warmth. Now instead of my heart, it's a marble stone. Every day is not a life. I just wake up and exist. I can't remember the last time I left this place. If it weren't for the grocer's wife, I'd starve to death. I have the money, but I don't have the strength to go out. I don't live in our house. I haven't been there since she passed away. I remember her fading eyes. Until her last breath, I held her hand. But the fever took her away, destroying my heart forever. I raced across the city, pushing people, bumping into stalls. What was I running from? I don't know. Grief, pain, suffering, death. Tears filled my eyes and my screams closed my throat. I couldn't stop. I couldn't keep running. I wanted to die. I never spoke her name again. Eventually, after sitting in the workshop for about 3 weeks, rising from the floor only to drink water and eat a bun brought by the grocer's wife, I began to slowly come to my senses. I channeled my grief into creativity. Since then, only marble has been in my soul. I take my tools and create images. But these statues are icy not only on the outside, but also on the inside. I've decided. This statue is the last one. I've decided to leave. To go to her, to warmth, to calm, to serenity. I don't want to live without her. So there's only one way out. My thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door. Creaked behind me, and then it swung open and banged against the wall. I was sure it was Martha bringing me a bun and an apple again. Usually I didn't pay attention to her, but this time something made me turn around and thank her. Only it wasn't Martha. There was no one there at all. A draft, I thought. Closing the door, I picked up the tool again and continued my work. My mind was filled with sad thoughts, and the sun was shining brightly outside the window. How contradictory life can be. My gaze fell on the dusty window pane. I couldn't believe my eyes. There she was down there, dressed in a soft blue dress, basket in hand. She stood at the spice stall. My heart did a somersault, everything spilling out of my hands. Leaning against the wall, I rolled down it to the floor, clamping my hands over my mouth to keep from screaming. No, no, no. This just can't be happening. It's not possible. It doesn't happen like this. I was furious. My eyesight was playing tricks on me. Couldn't be her. That was the last time I saw her in that dress. My consciousness turned off. When I opened my eyes, it was already late evening. The sun was at the very edge of the horizon, illuminating the streets with a pinkish scarlet color. The shadows of the houses sheltered people walking leisurely to their homes, to their families. I lay on the workshop floor and tried to realize what had happened. No, this couldn't have happened. I took a deep breath, stood up, picked up my tool, and continued working on the stone face despite my screaming soul for help. I worked through the night again, falling asleep only just before morning. Waking up in the morning, looking at my creation, I realized I was finished. That means only one thing. It's time. Today I will take this statue to the Lord, then return home and do what I should have done a long time ago. I will see her. I know she's calling me. For the first time in 3 months, I go outside. Nothing has changed. It's like someone pressed pause the last time I came home, gently lowering the statue down. All I could think of was, it's time. Once everything was loaded into the wagon, I set off. It wasn't a long drive, only 40 minutes from the city. Today I decided to enjoy the last day. I admired the familiar places where we spent time together, where we walked, talked, laughed. I know I'll see her soon. I could feel it. Suddenly, driving past a sewing shop, I saw her. Again. I stopped the horse abruptly and stared at her. The girl, still with the same basket in her hands, wearing the same dress, was buying ribbons. Her soft brown hair fluttered in the breeze, and in the rays of the midday sun it seemed to sparkle with gold. Suddenly she turned, as if sensing my gaze on her. I didn't know what to think. It was her. My heart felt it, but my mind, or whatever was left of it, said it was impossible. Taking one more look at me, she turned away and walked away. People began to resent me for blocking the road with my wagon, so I had no choice but to pull the reins and go on my way. All the way I thought, why does she appear to me? Maybe she's calling me? Or is she trying to tell me something? Or is it her at all? Maybe it's just my sick mind making it up. All I feel now is the bitterness of loss. I miss her. After a while, the castle appeared on the hill ahead. The midday sun was still brightly illuminating the road as I drove into a small grove. I liked the forest. It's quiet, peaceful. I drove through the trees and bushes and thought about how happy my life had been. Every day I woke up in the arms of my beloved. Every day we went to the city market together, bought vegetables, meat, and sometimes fish after lunch. We usually went up to the hill on the outskirts of the city, sat under a large, spreading oak tree and, eating rolls with cheese and blueberries, looked at the clouds. Every day I was happy. It's time, I said to myself. Just as I heard the crack of wood, the wagon tilted, and the wheel rolled sideways and disappeared into the ivy. Shit, I cursed. It was clear that the wheel was broken. This was the last thing I needed. Breathing loudly with ill-concealed anger, I climbed off the wagon and began rummaging through the thicket for the wheel. One way or another, I needed to bring the statue to the master. Tired and frustrated, I began to fix the cart. After sitting on the ground for about an hour and a half, I managed to attach the broken part more or less decently. When I was about to finish and go on my way, I looked up and my heart started beating again. There, ahead, where the forest path connected with the trade road, was a girl whose unearthly beauty was familiar to me in every detail. The smell of her brown hair, the warmth of her brown eyes, the tenderness of her hands. Once again I felt the same warmth I had before. She turned around, but this time she wasn't frightened, but smiled and walked off into the distance. I, losing all my strength from the confusion, sat down by the cart. I needed some time to rest. Why does she appear to me? She comes in my dreams, and now in my dreams. There's nothing more painful than seeing her and realizing she's gone. By sunset, I reached the castle. The beautiful oak bridge spanning a small river, the majestic walls, the splendid decoration inside, all make me feel my insignificance. Luca, my friend, I was expecting you for dinner. What happened? Came the loud voice of a gentleman coming down the front stairs with his arms outstretched. Walking up to me, we hugged like old friends. I've been working for this man for over 15 years, but I don't know anything about him. I don't think we're friends. The cart broke down. I answered dryly, I have no desire to talk, and no strength at all. Come in, my friend. I'll have tea served. You're hungry, aren't you? It's coming. Fabrizio. No. Thank you very much for your hospitality, but I don't want to stay long. Very well. Then let's get right down to business. Let's go see your work. We walked through a long art gallery into a large, richly furnished room with velvet sofas and a fireplace that was almost as long as my bed. The statue of the gentleman had already been placed on a pedestal, and now stood at a large window overlooking the garden. Next to it stood another smaller statue, covered with a sheet. Delightful. You've outdone yourself once again. I'm pleased with the work. Thank you very much. As a craftsman, it's very flattering to hear that. Oh yes, I have a favor to ask of you. This is a statue of my daughter, my only and beloved daughter. Unfortunately, it has begun to crumble, and I need all your skill to restore it. Can you do it? I think I can master, but first I need to take a look at it. Assess the damage and the extent of the work. May I remove the cloth? Do whatever you need to do. I slowly approached the statue. I don't know, but for some reason I was worried. My heart began to beat faster and my palms trembled. In one smooth motion, I pulled the sheet toward me. The sheet, light, weightless, revealed what it had safely concealed. With no air left in my lungs, I clutched at my heart and fell to my knees. My other hand, almost lifeless, disobediently reached for the beautiful statue whose icy features wounded me to the heart. It's time, I managed to think. Mary, I whispered. Those were his last words. The body of the sculptor, young and handsome, lay an insensitive sack on the floor. A marble statue of the Lord's beautiful daughter, one and the same like the sculptor's beloved, stood in the light of the scarlet rays of the setting sun. A marble veil covered her delicate, painfully familiar face. It was time.